Well, wow, thank you for coming. It shows that I've been here for 40 years, and I see part of my 40 years are distributed all through here, so thank you so much. But I got to thank Margie, first of all, for this incredible, she's amazing, a genius at presentation. It is just so, what she had, in my place, everything was kind of ratty, and it looked so good what she did. She painted the walls, and the way she hung things, it just resonant in a way that it just didn't in my own world. And so I'm so thankful. And she's so easy to work with, so I'm really thankful. And so yeah, what a great day to come to Edison. That's something that's great about showing here, is this opportunity to get out and see where we live. And I'm kind of on that roll right now. As awful as it is around here with all these cars, all these people I don't know, and they're just busy. And you come out here and you're just reminded of just what a wonderful place this is. And this gallery, and having this gallery here, it's right on the sea. And so for the opening, I kayaked here from Guimas. And it only took 3 hours. And it's just so, it was just so amazing that I got this gallery that's right on the water that I can get to by boat. And then coming here, it's like low tide, and all this shiny, glistening gray mud, silvery, with all these patterns, looks exactly like everything that's on the wall. So that was incredible. But the deeper thing is that this is the first place that I showed in the valley here, like 35 years ago. And it was this very room. And so I find that pretty extraordinary that now, like 35 years later, here I am. It's interesting that to me that the work then was I'm a potter, and so pots are in the show now. I made 3 pots for this. I haven't made pots in several years. But again, like appreciating where I am, I'm really slowing down and doing things as if it's the last time. So I spent a week on that big pot. I said go really slow, and so that's how I'm doing things now. And so I made 3 pots, and so those are left over from the stuff I had before. And the other stuff I was doing was, most of you know, but some of you don't. I was putting dead things on pots. I was isolating bits of nature that we normally think are not very pleasant, like stomachs and little bones and skins, and I was isolating that stuff on pots. And the reason that we would look in close and see something that we normally think is kind of disgusting and don't really pay attention to. By isolating them, you pay attention to it. And so that's what I was doing then. So now, I've got the pots still, and instead of the skins and bones, I got kind of tired of rotting skins around and skinning chicken feet, and so it's changed into detailed information about the surface of the earth. And so it's sort of the same thing, that on the wall, isolated, are things from the mud cracks, rotting cactus, things that we just kind of ignore, and that you put them on the wall and kind of look at them and see them as if you've never seen them before. So in that way, it's very much the same. And I think that's the function of art, is to help us to look at our world better. That it clues you in, and then you go out and you see our world better. And so I think that's the fundamental, at least for me, that is the reason I make art, because I just want people to look around and appreciate what's around us. And there's that story, there's that monk guy that was with this bowl of tea, I suppose, and maybe beer, and then seeing the moon reflected in the surface, and he saw it reflected. He saw the moon as if for the first time. So there's something about that isolation of natural phenomena that helps us to see the bigger world. So that's that. And so these castings, they're like photographs, and I make a mold of something that interests me out there in the world, and then I bring it back to my studio, and then I cast a positive, exactly like, you know, the photographer going out and, well, actually, it had to be a photographer that has those, what are they, daguerreotypes, those, you know, only have one plate, because that's the deal. Like, silicone's super expensive, and so I really only can make one mold. So if I'm in a huge field of undulating waves or whatever, I've got to look at everything before I choose the one thing I'm going to put all that stuff on. And so I come back to the studio, and then I print out a positive. But instead of recording light, I'm recording physical presence. And so, which I think is really important in our modern world, where we're so overwhelmed with all this digital imagery. It's all flat, it's all wonderful, but that's what it is. There's no physical presence there. And that's what I think is interesting about these. There's a weight to them, and there's a thingness to them, and that I find really interesting. So this was back when the Mars rover was first landing and checking out the surface of Mars, and I really got into the kind of the idea of that detailed amount of information that can be concentrated in just one place on the surface. And I've been going to the Southwest regularly in the winter, but discovering that now I do it for almost the whole winter. And in that world of rocks, and we're just fascinated by all the information, the geologic information, and all this stuff that was all around me. I was just really interested in it. And this guy, and I was trying to figure out a way that I could somehow copy it or record it somehow. And at that time, I had a cabin in Phil McCracken's at his studio in the backyard. And this foundry guy would come over and see my work. And he told me once that, well, you know, you can take silicone and you put it in warm water with dish soap, and it's not sticky. And so I was off and running, because that is the essence of the molds. And the molds themselves are really interesting in that, like here's, I don't know if you can see this, but you know, this is choy. I don't know if you've noticed these. There's all these little holes and stuff, right? But the mold is this. You know, it's the opposite, which is very cool. I'd love to make a vest out of this. And so the molds themselves are really interesting. But then using them, it's hard, because you got to, everything is inside out and backwards. This one is this actually, and it's like that, right? And all the action is way up here. The stuff on the top is all this way in there stuff, and so you make the mold on the thing and then take it off. And then you have to open it all up and make it so you can get something to show. And this is a whole case of silicone. But the thing I love is this is just regular silicone window caulking, and I love it that you can get it anywhere. You know, any drugstore, any tiny town has silicone, and so that's why I like that. It's just kind of, you can get the materials anywhere you are, and then this is the mud cracks from the stock tank, and it itself is just a very cool thing. And this one was really hard to do, because I was in the desert this winter thinking about, you know, less relief backgrounds for my star patterns, and so I saw this in a stock tank out in this wilderness area I was at, and it was at night, and I said, oh no, I'll wait and do it in the morning, and it rained. And so there was about that much water there's a big stock tank in the stock. There's pictures of it actually. They're in the stock tank, and so I went by the cottage cheese container, and I stopped at 300, poured it out, and emptied it, and it got down, and letting it dry overnight, and it rained again. And so I kind of did, and so what do you do? It's like a relationship, you know, it is a time to stop, but I did it again, and so, you know, these things don't necessarily come easy, right? And so Yeah, it's so what you do is you put it in the soapy water and you pick it up and then you plop it down and pat it out, and that's what you can. That's how you make your negative, and then let it cure and then peel it up. And so I'm hoping, a bunch of you get into this, and that we can have a little group show or something. I'm quite serious, actually, because it's a great thing to do with kids. It's really easy, and I when in casting the positive, I'll put a frame around it, and then I do this non-shrink wrap. I rub graphite on it, it gives this shininess. And so, but the pollen things for the prickly pear cactus was just free-form casting, so you don't necessarily have to do it. So I really encourage you with all of it. That's just the one thing that got me going was dish soap in warm, tepid dish water, and you're off and running. So go for it. And this one you have to look close. Oops, sorry, there's graphite in this. This one is just really cool, and I don't really like the white stuff, but I like this particular thing. It's interesting, and this is this one in the back that is all the debris after everything was killed in that heat wave we had about 3 years ago. And the next year, it was all the rubble in the beach, and I cast it. And I like to think of these as also geologic, kind of a geology, and this would be kind of the geologic record of climate change. Because if you saw something like this out in the world, because often the rocks you see are actually kind of surface prints of like the ocean floor or something, and you find something like this, and it would mean all these dead things together would suggest a mass die-off. My interest in this is the information that's in small pieces of the earth or objects in the earth, and I developed the technology, and I'm interested in the patterns of matter, how the positioning of it, and then how it decomposes, disintegrates, and also comes together. I'm interested in those things, and so looking at all my tiles, I was realizing that there's this idea of motive force. The force that's unseen is behind the way matter is. Everything is. Everything around us has some kind of motive force. Like that cord right there there was a motive force that put it there. It was the person dragging it out, and the person rolled it up and it unrolled like that. And so everything has behind us, wherever it is and whatever position it is, has this unseen force about why and how it is there. And I realized, looking at all my castings, I realized that the underlying thing in all of them is the force of gravity, that they're all dealing with gravity. And also the things themselves, just by they express gravity just by their weight. And so it was both the resistance to gravity and the acquiescence to gravity, both of those things, and often working in tandem, like wave marks on a beach, or a blob of algae that settled on some sedges, or even screws that are thrown out onto a plate. They all reflect gravity, and then even the decomposing cactus reflects gravity in the sense, first the decomposing of it, but there's also this rigid material that their bone structure shows that they're like mummies, because this is the flesh, and the flesh breaks away and it leaves the structure inside. And a friend of mine is a botanist was telling me that cactus are unique in having this material. It's a kind of xylem, a secondary xylem, and it's both woody, and it also acts like a hose, a soaker hose. So it has this material. It's unique to cactus. and they all use it in different ways and to defy gravity. And like the saguaro, well, actually the best one is that one, that one there. That's a saguaro, and the saguaro, you puts them together vertically. These long sticks. They can be 20. The cactus are like 30 feet high, and it allows the cactus to grow up and vertical. And the cholla uses the same material. And it does it by interlacing it like a Buckminster Fuller kind of geodesic situation to get its strength. And so the chollas can defy gravity and become these like tree-like things. And then the prickly pear, that same material. If you look close, it's a web thing, and it's all this webby stuff. And it allows the pads to come out flat, and then they can turn away from the sun, so they don't get all zapped by the sun. So I love how all these, it's a given for this group of plants to have this material, and they all use it in such completely different ways. And so even though it's not the defiance of gravity also defines the force of that is created. It defines what it is being defiant to. So these things this has an echo of the gravity that they are defying. And so yeah, hey.
Can we interrupt with questions as we go along, or would you rather keep?
Maybe not. I'm standing over. Right. Maybe later. Yeah. Right. The stars is I've always my same interest in the positioning of things has led me to drawing the stars, which I've been doing for decades. And I mean, talk about gravity. I mean, there it is, gravity expressed, right? I've got pages and pages of these, and I do it, at night, obviously, and I can't really see. I've got this little flashlight, and one star kind of at a time. And the first dot is easy. The second dot is easy. The third dot, it's got to triangulate, make a triangle. The fourth dot, it has to fit everything. And so it just gets to be this huge complex of interlacing geometry. And it's just absolutely thrilling to be in the middle of that. And super, super challenging. And in making the drawings, we know the sky. We've been the Neanderthal. I mean, we have been immersed in this us now less, and our future is really grim with regard to stars because they probably won't be around in 30 years with light pollution. They're pretty scarce now, but they're embedded in us, and we know what those patterns are. And so, like Orion, it's really, really hard to, or the Big Dipper, if it's even slightly off, you can tell that it's off. So they're really hard to draw. And then my process was I can get position, which is what I'm interested in mostly, but I can't get relative intensity when I'm doing it at night. And the next day, I'll take these drawings and I'll key them out, and I go to my star chart, I got all these dots, and then I got it. They actually are in the book. And then to key them out, and then I can get relative intensity, because I want the final thing to actually look like what I'm seeing, which involves a great variety of star shape. This winter, I was wondering what I was going to do with all these drawings, and I realized that I've always felt something of the deep sky when I look at some of my castings, when I look at the wave castings or even the algae or the cracks. There's something about the deep sky, that the energy in it, that I feel when I look at the tiles and I look at the sky. And recently, those telescopes that have registering, way out there, are showing these huge masses in deep space that look like blobs of algae. And there's reference to waves and cracks, and it was just kind of confirmed my feeling. So this fall, I was stuck here with a dead car and couldn't go to the desert. So I found myself, and I found a source of ball bearings, bicycle mechanic ball bearings. For $10, you can get 300 of them, all different sizes. And thank you, Amazon. And so I found myself putting my stars to my castings, and it was just stunning for me to bring these two fields of my work together, my castings and the stars, kind of bring the stars to Earth. So then, I'm doing something new. So I talked Marty into letting me have a show, and I killed myself all winter by getting sidetracked by all this cactus stuff. And so here I am. And so thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, George.
Alan, these are just incredible 3D etchings, really. And I'm wondering, like, when you purchase an etching, it's one of 50, for instance,
right.
and do you plan to limit your number of
Well, most of
reproductions?
I do not do production, and there's no way I can duplicate it. There's
You
no
couldn't
way.
use your mold for a second
Well,
time?
yes, but there's all these other variables, and there are a couple of them, like there's another one of that one out, but I don't really do multiples. And I can't, because there's so many variables involved, they will always be different.
Well, these
So, yeah,
these
I
are
don't-
so incredible. I was thinking these should be in MoMA in New York.
Well, here they are, though. I'm dead serious about that. We've got it here. You go to Seattle, and it's mostly, I wouldn't say, I will say crap, but it's not necessary to be that severe. But it's just, it is incredible what we have here. And we've got this landscape that fuels it. We have, people that are looking and caring, and so it's here. And why in the world would I want to go to New York and show New York? Yeah, I'm very serious about Becky.
So when you're saying that you can get the silicone anywhere, you mean just in tubes?
Yeah. That is the most. Good. More detail for these people that are going to be doing this. You get these tubes, right? And then you cut the pokey part out, right? You cut it off, and then you put that in your little machine thing, and then you loop the whole thing out into the water. The water. And then I can manage about maybe 5 or 6 tubes of the mass. And then it's hard, this was actually a vertical cactus, and so you got it. You can't have it too much, otherwise it all slides off. I do use pans sometimes, but that especially like for on the ground. But you don't want to use too much because it clogs up the pores. And then it's just regular silicone window caulking.
How long does it have to keep?
It depends. Sometimes, like these big ones, I had to leave it 4 or 5 days, because they're really big things in there. And when you pull it out, silicone is amazing. It is so incredibly tough. These things are pretty severe undercuts, and you pull it out, and it's amazing that you can actually pull this stuff out. The silicone is that strong. That one right there behind Aaron. That one, the mold stayed in. So that's an example of a mold that is totally dead. And but normally you can get by with maybe 3 hours.
Would you have to cover the cactus so it doesn't get any humidity on it?
Well, no humidity happening there. And so once it's on, you can it just stays there. But these, I don't know. You guys, you got to go to the Sonoran Desert. Because, I mean, it's this whole other ecosystem, and I just plop myself down and live there, because I didn't drive, and it's just, and those rotting cactuses are just incredible. Aaron.
I feel like there's a really strong component of time with your work, decomposition, place, ecology, and then ultimately your presence in the field doing this between tides and sun and starlight, as the sky is shifting and things are changing.
Right.
Do you reflect on time much in your process or in this work?
Well, a lot, actually. I do with the star drawings, because that's how we measure time, or a measure of time. And actually, one of the impetus in the star drawings was I'm out there and there's Mars, and you realize, or also I think about primitive people out there staring, and there's this thing out there, and then the next night, it moves so slowly you can't actually tell, but something happened. And I really think way back that they would make a mark to mark that one time, and then later we'll make another one to mark that. I think that's what a lot of those rock peckings are. And then later make another one. And I think that's the origin of writing, because you've got these images that are read sequentially, and through them there's this information. They're all saying writing, oh, it's commerce and all that stuff. I don't think so at all. I think it was this, because, and then you have this series of images that obviously reflect time, but also reflect, like in this exact example, is the movement of Mars. And the same thing with the waves and stuff. That when I'm casting them, I think the stuff you have, actually has the date on it, and date and time, because that's out at the river. And so I'm interested how this incredible, beautiful thing is exposed at that moment. And it's only because the tide's going to come back in. It's only for a few hours. And so this, and also I see them as fossils. So I make this record, and then I have a fossil that has an actual date on it. But I've also retrieved this incredibly beautiful thing that was just here for a second. So yeah, I do think about time. Yeah.
So I want to know more about the process. So you make this big block, you put this big block on, and
Or a little blob.
a little bit, whatever size block, and then so it's rough around the edges, and then you take it off, and then you cut it into
I
the
do,
shape that you want.
but not necessarily.
Okay.
Because sometimes like you can just do it. Like I made some good little blobby ones on that mold, and they were pretty cool. But yes, I do cut it, and then I make a frame, and then you got to make sure stuff doesn't leak out, all that kind of stuff you have to do.
And is it plaster?
No, I pour a non-shrink grout, and I put black pigment in it, and then I rub onto the plate. So I rub on this. It's a machine graphite. It's really slippery, and it fuses to. And then I pour the stuff in. Oh, and then if you're actually seriously going to do this, the beam casting, you pour it in, and then the trick is you got to knock under the table to get the bubbles up if it's three-dimensional. But most of the stuff is fairly flat, and then let it cure and pop everything apart, and there you go. So you think you can do it? Good. Hey.
Getting back to the process, because I'm going to go buy these tubes. And I'm going to do something besides caulking. But the question I have is, so you just like take a bucket of warm soapy water and just put this blob in, and then that makes...
It's amazing, and it continues to be not sticky. But then, there are these problems that, once it sticks on your hand, you're kind of toast.
So you want to wear gloves?
Well, no, I never wear gloves. No, I never ever wear gloves. There's no articulation. I can't do it. But no, then you just have some dish soap with you, and you can slather your hands with dish soap.
Okay.
And
And
so,
one other thing, I know a lot of times there's like kitchen utensils that are silicone, and they resist heat.
oh,
So, like you have like spatulas now, there's some
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you know if this stuff is heat resistant?
I really do.
Oh, so it's just a question. And then, okay.
Yeah.
So it's really just experiment.
I have no idea. I'm with materials and stuff. I get something to do what I want, and I just stop.
Yeah.
Just doing what I want.
Has there ever been a surface that you've tried that it hasn't worked?
In Hawaii, there was this. That I forget one of those Oz or one of those, and it was that ropey stuff that was flowing, which was way cool. And I put it out, that sprayed Pam and everything, and I put it out there, and it would not come up. But that's the only thing I've had that it do.
Like it was it seaweed?
Oh no, lava.
Lava.
Yeah, it was lava. Yeah. The porosity or whatever, it was all shiny. It should have released and stuff. But and so, I tried to clean it all off. There's some little bit of silicone out there.
Must have been Pele telling you can't take it even this.
Exactly. I couldn't even take a thing. Exactly. I was definitely put in place. Right. But hey.
It's not really a question as much as an observation to see if it resonates maybe, but I've had the thought a few times when you look out at the ocean, you're not exactly seeing the ocean, you're kind of more like seeing the intersection between the ocean and the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the ocean in that sense is kind of hidden in what we think of as looking at the ocean.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that looking at your pieces because you're with such high fidelity recording the surface,
Yeah.
which sort of begs curiosity about what's hidden from you.
See, I'm really into the hidden.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's this motive force thing about, why stuff is where it is. You can't see that.
Yeah.
That's something that's not here anymore.
Right.
And so that's that aspect of hiddenness is very interesting to me. And actually, so I see these as evidence, and I was I looked it up in the dictionary, and the first definition that I got was for evidence was the mark of something no longer there. Which is totally hot. That's an interesting thought. I like that. Hey.
There's a lot of sense of transient passing in this show. I mean, here they're permanent, but they're in the process of having lived and now they're disintegrating. I mean, that's a very powerful aspect.
Yeah, to something else. I mean, it's like this one. It didn't actually work. The background on this is stuff called desert pavement, and so it's this gravel that can be thousands of years old. Right? It's really interesting to me because I noted in Death Valley the stuff I was first casting. I really resonated to that, and then I found out that it was probably 4,000 or 5,000 years old. So you kind of see it. And then where I was in the Sonoran Desert, I found out, my God, there's stuff here that's 200,000 years old. And that I didn't actually find, but I'm going to go back and see. And so that ancient thing. And so with this decomposing cactus, I was trying to put together, this is the pattern of the 3,000 or 1,000, however many thousand years old, gravel. And this is the flesh of the cactus decomposing. So it's not really death, it's transformation. I think that's the key. Hey, Margaret.
Do you have much thought that goes in, or how do you know which constellation is going to go on which casting? Like, when I was looking at Sam Cram's field,
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder why it's that constellation. Is there just a set, do you just like, how do you know? Like, do you just put whatever you want in there?
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that, because it is, I just really like the great square of Pegasus.
Yeah.
And was trying to find something that it would fit on, and I love that field. And also, what works about that is that it has kind of a dullness to it, the surface. And so the stars really show up. Oh, I want to point out that something else that, Margie went over the top for, is that, I really wanted an area of darkness, because these things, I don't have electricity, right? And so these things show up really well in my own world. But you bring them out and you see the stars. And so I was wanting shadow, so Margie went through the effort to put in this wall, and, her, uptight plant, but wanted, and created this area, which, so you can actually see the better. But, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah.
Hey, I noticed your pots are getting bigger. Are you still firing in cans over an open fire, or you can move some?
Yeah, well, different. These, because they're so big, I do a light, my friend Sue has a kiln, so I do a real low, so they won't blow up. And then I fire, but I hadn't fired for a long time. And the big one, I was wanting them completely black, right? And that big one, I put it in with sawdust, and there were too many holes, and it just didn't work, and it came out all splotchy, and I hated it. And I was all ready to throw on some black iron oxide or something to make it black, but I waited, and then I looked at it, and I said, well, holy shit, this looks exactly like those patterns in deep space. It's got this splotchy, and even the colors, it looks exactly like the stuff in deep space. So I kept it because that bridged the pots to my deep space stuff. And so it's that thing, it's that whole, everything is that, to hold back on what you think you want or any of that. And there's a point at which you do have to nurse it in the direction you want it to go, but you got, and you can't just say, just a whole bunch of stuff, oh, that's nice. You can't quite do that. And there's that dance, and I'm so glad with that I held off, because it's just absolutely perfect. Oh, good. Becky.
Are you going to put star patterns on some of them?
I'm thinking about it. I was thinking about it. And yeah, it's tricky though, because then it would have to be the universe, because it's round. So I'd have to do the whole zodiac or something. No, but hey, why not? I need a bigger pot and plenty of time, but I'm at the, yeah. Actually, with the stars, my ambitious self, but hey, I'm 76, so my ambition is kind of this, this is it, and so this was hard enough. Is because the stars we see are not, that's not how they actually are. That's the pattern we see them, and so I was starting, and I figured out how I could glue transparent fish line to the ball bearings and hang them, right? And so I said, oh great, I'll get a square space and then hang the stars as they are in real. And then, like I say, I want to do the Big Dipper. I got the Big Dipper, and all its stars are wherever they are, hang them, and also you got to do weirdness about the sizes have to be what you see, so you have to do that. And then, so that when you look at it from all other angles, this little box I have here, it's all these hanging balls, but from one place you can see the Big Dipper. So yeah, you want to help me with that? Actually, I'm thinking of you, but that's, I'm thinking of you to help me with that in your studio, so, after your show,
Well, you've created a perspective of our planet and the universe.
Yep.
Which is big thought. Your emotive force is strong in this.